Back. Okay, we're back. We're back live. So it's a beautiful Friday again, like I said, and here in Nigeria, thank God it's Friday. We know the hustle and bustle and the different things we face on a Friday. A lot of people are going to have their tension cooled down, and well, this is Nigeria. Welcome to Lagos. This is Lagos. I'm reporting live from Lagos, Ikeja to be precise, and the time is 7:38 p.m. And we're also going to be having view. So I think he's here now. He should be here. Okay, good. Okay, good. Good evening, Honorable Lee.
Hi, Damilola, how are you?
Hi, good evening. How are you doing today?
Okay, I apologize for the struggle in getting on, but here we are.
Okay, so how are you? How's your family? And
very good, thank you.
Thank you.
All is well.
All is well. That's great. I would like to know where you are speaking from for everyone that has joined us up now.
Okay, so I'm speaking from sunny Spain, well, not so sunny. It's been it's been raining today, but I'm currently in Spain, and the general is over in the US in Virginia. Obviously, we're being the owner of the state of Virginia. That's where he resides.
Oh wow, that's great. I'm speaking from Lagos, Nigeria. It's a humid weather here today. It's quite hot, but of course we're managing life as it is. So into the business of the day, a lot of people have wondered and they kept asking questions that I know that it's only you that can put a light to the darkness of these questions. I would like to ask, like, the first question is, what is the UCC one?
Yes. Okay, just as an explanation of UCC1, obviously the general is the emir of UCC1. So you have, let's say, three different types of UCC. So the original, born in 1750 in the US, or should I say American Republic, pre-constitution is the original UCC. As you can see on our site, it's spelled capital U, capital C, small c, -1. Now that Perseverance goes all over the world, so over every nation. It's common law and natural law. It's not tied, or it's not corporate. So in the 1930 Geneva Convention, you had obviously the convention and the UCC, which allowed the world to operate under bankruptcy for a short time or a limited time. So they've tried, all these corporations and banks and everything else have been trying to remove the debt or get rid of the debt and crawl out of bankruptcy, which until now they failed. They haven't done that. So 1933 you had the RBI, banking systems come in to try and sort out the debt. It was still under UCC bankruptcy when that was developed. 1956, 57 and 58 you had the corporate UCCs, which is all caps lock, all lowercase, still under common law. But again, they are corporate entities. They register everything, all your corporations and everything else. So with that being said, 1971, you had the removal of the gold standard. And then the petrol dollar was born. It's still under bankruptcy, it's still debt until we call the debt. So the general over the past 20 odd years has taken over the UCC, common law, natural law, being juris at law, or sui juris or sui generis, which he'll explain when he comes in, and under the Great Seal Perseveranda. Now, the problem with UCC was, yeah, it could have been corrupted, or it was corrupted itself to allow it to go, or allow the world to fall into bankruptcy, or operate under bankruptcy. So, in actual fact, we've removed the corruption, we've leaned the UCC, and taken it over. So we are the heads of UCC. The general is the emir, the chief judge, the grantor, owner of the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, which stretches a very, very long way. And also the lesser seal, which is the flip side of the Great Seal Perseveranda, which is on the wall there, the three ladies there at Libertas, it's called at Libertas. The flip side of that coin, let's say, is the Sic Semper Tyrannis, which is where we get our motto, rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. On that, if you look at the Great Seal or the Perseverando or Sic Semper Tyrannis, you can see it on Wikipedia everywhere else. That is the official government seal of the state of Virginia and the Commonwealth of Virginia. So that state and Commonwealth is American Republic.
Okay.
So yeah. So actually, I think the general might be on now. What's happened is, which the general can go into further detail regarding this. The UCC obviously didn't have the teeth to go in after the corporations or revoke or impede on them or to even break down the corruption. So then the World Martial Authority was born. We're indemnified not just by UCC or the General's two on-record de jure courts, because they're the only two in American Republic. The only other on-record court is the Supreme Court, the US Supreme Court. Now, they are actually a private or, let's say, corporate or commercial entity. So they are an on-record court. They do have those powers to obviously convict and everything else that they do, and they do have that power over everybody in the US. So there's a difference here. The big difference is we are sovereign, they are corporate. The sovereign always is the oversight. So with that, we have to be the oversight over all continents, because it's UCC. It stands for Universal Commercial Codes. So it's not just planetary or this planet. It's also uniform commercial codes, which all commercial entities operate from or under, even including the debt money or the debt note or the promissory note, and uniform bonding codes, which all banking officers are bonded under. So we have that's the supreme authority over all of that.
Okay.
So then when you come down to the, sorry, go on.
Okay, that's great. I wanted to know about, I know transiting from the UCC one, the laws and every other thing involved, I also want us to, I would like you to put some light on explaining who and what the WMA, the World Martial Authority, is in particular.
Okay, so we're not just the World Martial Authority, we are creating other authorities as well.
Okay.
So just as a basis, the World Martial Authority is the law enforcement. It's a private and commercial international law enforcement. So we enforce the laws that are meant to be abided to within the commercial industries and sectors. So everything that is registered as a corporation, could be governments, it's all the banks, it's all the businesses, all the industries, big pharma, big tech, big everything else. We are the law enforcement and the common and natural law, which supersedes all other laws, to ensure that there is no criminal corruption, harm to life, or harm to planet. Okay. So we actually, with the various courts that we operate with, you have Ignita Veritas, which sponsors the Sovereign Justice International Courts, the ICC, the ICJ, the Hague, and the two on-record courts that the General has, and also a few of the constitutional courts throughout Africa and other nations as well. So because all constitutions are common law and land law, then they fall into our category as well. Not that we're going to come and impede on any nation. All that's already been done a few times in the past. We're not doing that. We're bringing your sovereignty back, because you are all sovereign. If you were born, you were sovereign. You were not a product. So what will actually happen is we can strip out all of those corporate rulings, all legislations, policies, regulations, everything since 1930 are null and void. Any statute or mandates in any law are fraud or a felony. So anything that is being impeded on the people on their jurisdiction is, without informed consent, is classed as illegal trespass, be it on your person or on your nation. So let's say, well, we'll use Nigeria as a prime example here. You're in the Commonwealth of England, And if you wanted to obviously remove that, like South Africa did a few years ago, even though they're still in a catch-22 situation with ANC, because ANC is registered in London.
Okay, we have the Chief Judge here. You're welcome.
Hi, General.
Hi, General.
Good day. Respect.
Good day to you. It's nice to see you too. Okay, so I was just asking Honorable Lee on the second one, like who and what the WMA, the World Marshal Authority, is and what they stand for, which he has been really explaining and putting a lot of light under that. But be as it may, I'd like to ask you, General, is World Marshal Authority recognized by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank?
Okay, of course, you have a memorandum, or what you may call jurisprudence, or certain systems of laws that cause them to be obligated. And of course, all of the institutions are connected via the Uniform Commercial Code or the Universal Commercial Code. Some that may emphasize the civilian aspect of their due diligence. They have what you may call other proceedings or processes. And far too often these get left out. The presenter is to be respected by the clerk, or you would know ye men or ye women by their presentments. So, of course, the word recognize means to be subject to control. And we have to be careful about that, because sometimes nations or people may have the wrong interpretation from a civilian standpoint pertaining to the debtor or the states. Recognize such as a group that may go into a trust-related relationship, may be subjected and may have to divest certain sovereignties. They may get rid of those sovereignties being recognized, like in the United States corporation company. Those in corporations or nation states have little to no sovereignty. No corporate state will remain or retain that sovereignty because of the recognition. So typically they'll set up a dependency where one is sovereign until they become recognized. So the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous and Tribal People is fully recognized, self-determined nation. And that's the emphasis of that, putting the people as superior back to the corporate construct, so those that were capitalists would be reminded that they cannot violate the greater, which is humanity.
Wow, that's great. I think that one of the reasons why we're here is because a lot of people also have questions, not because I am asking you some of these questions. And I think the first question on this screen is, where does the WMA get their funding from? Why do they use the medallion voucher system to fund projects and beneficiaries?
Okay.
Okay, so would you like me to, do you want me to answer that one, General, or do you want to go for?
Oh, you can go for it.
Okay, so the voucher system itself is based on the state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth of Virginia. Okay, so it's already monetized. It is a form of currency, let's say, just to keep it simple for everybody to understand. So, for example, you have the Southern currency, which is the monetary value of the state, for example. So it's a prepaid voucher. It's drawn down from the land instruments. Okay, so there is actually, there's no limit to the amount, or there's no, I'm the one who caps a limit to it. So for example, if you have a project, you issue me the project, which is the invoice. I issue the voucher, which is the credit, and then you present, or the project owner presents
any commercial bank?
Any bank, any paying facility, or any institution can actually credit these. It's not money. We're not looking for the bank's money. It's already prepaid. So to ensure, or to assure that voucher, is that we take full responsibility and liability for the bank or the paying institution to credit the account, because money or credit is margin. Margin is money somewhere else. And you go back to the voucher, and that is, it's already paid for. It has a medallion on it. The medallion thing is something the general acquired. It's an insurance. Like if you go to, let's say, JP Morgan or Citibank or anybody else or Bank of America, they have a medallion service, which is an insurance guarantee.
Okay.
So it's fully insured. So the charter itself is insured, and everything that comes out of it is fully insured and fully backed. This is real money. This isn't your promise to pay notes or your debt notes or anything. I mean, if you look at a bank, for example, take it, you can go onto any website, see their balance sheet, you see what they have in pledged assets, pledged, not given, and how much they have in cash against that, against the amount they have in cash. So no bank on the planet has that balance sheet equivalent, let's say money equivalent to assets or pledged assets. Could be gold, could be anything that they've pledged to the bank to support it. That just stops the bank, that just props the bank up. So they have a license to print as much as they like. You put $10 in the bank, they'll print 100. There's nothing to back it. So with a voucher, it is fully backed, full faith, credit, debit, assured, and insured. And the general owns his own charter, okay, his own reserve bank, which is being sovereign is a higher level than the Federal Reserve or any reserve bank. Wow. So when we issue the documentation to the bank, with the general being the comptroller, the creditor, or the grantor of credit, they have the full, the bank is at zero risk, because we take all the risk and responsibilities. All we're doing is using the bank as a paying out facility. That's all we're doing.
Okay. Okay. Now that we understand the voucher and how it works, where does this funding coming from particularly? Is there a group of people putting finance together to fund sovereignty, or it's coming from some borrowed entity or something?
It's indemnified. Yeah, it's indemnified through the courts of Virginia. In this case, the land instrument. It's based on the state or the Commonwealth of Virginia. That is the money. You see, what you've got to look at, if you walk into a bank and say, I would like to see my money in the vaults, and I would like to see what backs it as well, the bank will probably turn around to you and say, just get out, here's the statement.
Absolutely.
Okay? They don't prove anything. They give you a piece of paper. So when you're getting paid from one country to another via the SWIFT system, all they get in the banks is a text message or a confirmation saying, yes, okay, we'll deduct the money this end and we'll add it that end. That's how that works. No money goes. There's no money slot for the money to be put into the SWIFT system. It doesn't carry any money. It's just a text messaging service. So you can have a bank and you can have $10 million in that bank. But when you walk into the bank and say, can I have the cash, please? They won't have it. They will not have the cash. They'll have it on the screen. It's all margin, money somewhere else. So, you know, you have your equities, you have your mortgages and all this, that, and the other. And the way they've been done is by liens, okay? So a mortgage contract, for example, is a lien on a property. They create the money to pay the guy who is selling. He walks off with the money thinking it's all great, everything is fine. And the guy who's paying back the money has to use proof of work. This is why you have to take in your, let's say to open an account, your utility bill. Okay. So it means you're alive, or your passport or your birth certificate or whatever you need to open the account. It's proof of life, saying you exist, you actually are, have an abode, you have a job, you have this, that, and the other to obtain that mortgage. That mortgage is a piece of paper. The money given to the other guy is a piece of paper. Everything is done by paper. So that is a lien. The mortgage contract is a lien. Now, the issue that I kind of have with this is, okay, the bank buy the house off the seller. They create the money for that house as a debt to the other person. So that other person falls under default straight away. And if he fails to pay, he goes into default. When the bank is already under UCC bankruptcy, they're already in default, creating money out of debt. So there lies a problem right there. So with that in mind, we don't use debted money. We don't use the debtor system. The general's a creditor. We're creditors. We're sovereign. So in actual fact, if you walked into a bank and said, I would like $232 trillion, please, for my jurisdiction, which is your body. I have 232 trillion cells in my body, and I think they're all worth $1 each.
$1 each, okay.
The bank will tell you to go away. There is no conceptual value. There's only conceptual value to anything. You can have a car worth $500 and sell it for 20,000. You'd snap somebody's arm off for that. But in actual fact, if you're not sticking to real values and things and this, that, and the other, it's all conceptual value. A bar of gold today is worth $56,000 a kilo. Who put that price tag on it? The person who put the price tag on that is a person who paid the most for gold that day. It's the same with Bitcoin. It's the same for everything else. So that means every other one is that value too. So that's how markets work and everything else. But markets are a great way of getting money and driving economies and everything else. So with us, we go for the humanitarian projects. Okay. There is no restrictions over us in that manner. So we go into a bank, and the UCC 3603, which is tender of discharge, tender of payment. I am the enforcer, the endorser. I stick my stamp on that as World Marshal Authority head, and a general, obviously, he is the owner. We issue that to the project owner. He walks it into the bank, and under UCC 3603, tender of payment, endorser, enforcer, which is me, you still have to discharge. If you do not discharge, then we issue a UCC 9, which is foreclosure of your bank under UCC bankruptcy, where we can come in, readdress that balance sheet, and then pay everybody out on all the, let's say, the interest they've ever paid on mortgages, loans, and this, that, and the other. You wipe out the debt, you wipe out the bills.
You wipe out the bills.
So, because this is an infinite credit system, there is no limit. So we're coming out with this. And also, as I mentioned earlier on, with Ignita Veritas and what they're doing as well, the world debt is owed to them. Now, they want to release that debt to the world, so there will be bigger things coming in behind us as well. So, like I said, we operate with these various courts and various sovereigns and royals all over the world who have all of these things you may have heard of. I mean, I know everybody's heard of the GCR, the Great Reset, and blah, blah, blah. But the point is, they can't release all of this, not without the codes. So when that does come to fruition, which it is, because we're working with many bankers, we're working with some very, very high-level people to get this infatuated, you'll see there will be a little disturbance, but it's all it's all good, because this is the future. This is what we're looking into. We're not going to go into this, the world's overpopulated trap. We're not into the vaccines. We're not even into the COVID and everything else. So we know what's going on behind the scenes, and I'm pretty sure everybody else is done by all the posts everybody's throwing out there and everything else. So I'm sorry, I'm slightly digressing, should I say.
Well, where some of our questions are still encapsulated in your reply or your submission. General, I'd like to ask, are you part of the United Nations?
The United Nations has a permanent forum for all DRIP or Aboriginal Indigenous people that sees each Aboriginal Indigenous person as a sovereign. And that's what that is. It's nothing special. When we went to the United Nations, I actually visited there 3 times, and I was able to visit the high commissions. And the United Nations Declaration of Rights, Indigenous and Tribal People is the highest office. It supersedes all offices there because it emphasizes on the nature of the original people. And most people may call and they may have a misunderstanding about nothing corporate or fake or fiction can give life or authorization or bond anything. When you're talking in terms, I see Gullible for himself. I wanted to answer this question. Is the funding from WMA sanctioned by various sovereigns or jurisdictional reserve banks? We are the first. There is no other. That's what the United Nations is to get the original people back to their superior status before they were intruded by the lie. We do not operate in debt, and we do not get authorization from anyone in debt. We are first, not because we are better. It's because of the chronological sequence of life that have given us the responsibility. And it was an imbalance via the breach of intruding on our continental shelves by coming in our land. That was the United States system. We were never on a debt system. We've always been honorable and settle our debts and square our situations up front that day.
Okay,
You know,
that's
that's the
great.
basis
But
of the drip.
now back to Nigeria as a very peculiar country. I want to know, general now to you, can you assist our country and other African countries in getting out of debt?
Yes, I would like to say these countries have never been in debt. They were a victim of being tricked or violated or misdirected. It's impossible for any native or any normal being to be in debt. After 1930, the Geneva Convention foreclosure had put that manifest in the minds and hearts of everyone, everybody that was colonial, de facto, all lands. And what happened is there was an undermining of the original people issuing their electricity, their currency, their credit. And you did not need third-party misrepresentation, or you may call parliamentary representatives, because they're going to misrepresent what your sovereignty is. There's no such thing. So people became dependent upon lies and did not emphasize self-determination. That's your nation. You're never indebted, you see. So we can, of course, settle or satisfy account, because we are there to debit, not to undermine and to drive the deficit up and to facilitate felonious, disrespectful transactions. I would never sit with anyone knowing that they were the fathers and mothers before I and charge them, being in a position knowing that I cannot neither define to do so. So the United States, on my continent, I've been very forthcoming for them to educate them about the word sovereign, and we are the mothers and fathers, the securitors, we are the grantors, we are the guarantors. When the guarantors act, then the markets will get better. So you must guarantee via enforcement. Criminal behavior is not tolerable, and that's what it is. It's the difference in finance and commerce. Commercial law is substantive jurisprudence without without lies, misrepresentations, third party. Debt does not satisfy debt. You have to have a positive. You have to have something that doesn't lie. So this is the basis of the world. Once we stop lying and people understand that, then you are not indebted. You never was. It's just letters and numbers on paper. Okay. And this is the journey for us, but you can master it. And of course, it was taken care of in 1930. Respects be to everyone. Yes, you can be. You have never been in debt. We would just start to represent the papers and the express of what is factual. And the colonial sectors, if they were threatened by different people coming out of debt, is ludicrous, because we can sit there and offer cushion and help them as well. So we funded the state of Virginia, and the state of Virginia entered to the world as the banker that funded them. So, it happened before, we can do it again. That's the nature of our relationship between the First Nation people and the colonists.
Okay, that's great. Honorable Lee, I want to know your take on how many countries currently have the vouchers, and how many of them are doing successfully well.
Okay, so the voucher process that I started off in May, so it's obviously relatively new to banks. We're looking in the region of about 10 to 12 different nations that currently have vouchers. We are cashing out on a few now once the banks have been educated, let's say, and they're moving forward with everything. So it's looking very, very good. Let's say Tanzania. There is one in Nigeria right now with Femi.
Yes.
And there's also South Africa. I've had quite a few, let's say. They're moving forwards, and obviously with the problems and things that are going on in South Africa, we are dealing with their Reserve Bank. Yeah, Zambia, Namibia, about to be issued one. What else is there? We've got Morocco, Armenia, We're looking at Suriname. We're looking at various other nations right now. What I don't want to do is overwhelm the markets with them until people or these bankers have actually performed on their obligations, let's say. So yes, a couple of bounced from one bank to another. I am working with some high-level traders right now who are going to cash a number of them out for us, and then that funding will go to the projects. Now, the issue that you have in all banks is the fact of the restrictions on the USD. Okay, so you have the Fed Reserve, which, as everybody knows, is currently hit its debt ceiling.
Okay.
So the problem there is they're restricting because they don't have the money. Okay.
Okay.
But this is credit; it's completely different. So we're looking more towards using euros or something else because we only use the term of the notes. We don't actually use the money at all. It's debt. We don't use debt. So let's say because a bank understands the language of what a USD is, or a Great British Pound, or a Euro, or a Rand, or a Naira, then we use those terms. That's the money. That's the monetary term that paying institution can pay. So you can credit these in any currency. It doesn't matter. You can do them in Naira. You can do them in USD or euros or whatever. So the way this works, okay, and the way we've planned this out is the nation's bank. So Nigeria has a voucher, okay?
Okay.
So that is presented to a bank. We don't want any of the money to go anywhere other than Nigeria. So there is a portion for the World Marshal Authority to help establish and help people on the ground. This is your own people. There's no Americans coming in. There's no Chinese, French, Russian, or whatever.
Indigenous people.
Your own people. Yes, your own people. So we're obviously with Femi. He's been around up and down the length and breadth of Nigeria, speaking to community leaders, speaking to everybody else. And, you know, he's had a long trip of that, which was great. And I got to speak to a lot of people and explain all of this to them. So what we're going to do is the bank gets presented the voucher. They just go to credit. Now, they can do it in Naira or any currency they want. The World Marshal Authority Fund will be controlled in Nigeria. We're not asking them to bounce the money out anywhere else.
Okay.
Okay, so the only time if you're going to buy something from another country, obviously from the US or China or somebody else, but you're not going to spend that amount of money that we've put in. You know, it's not going to go into any other accounts except for being invoiced. As I said, the project is the invoice, the voucher is the credit, the bank's there to perform on the obligation. Okay? And then you get further invoices in because no matter what you buy, you have an invoice for it. So everything is accountable. So a bank is accountable because it holds accounts. It's also liable. There is no limit on the liabilities. Okay, so they're liable. But we've gone to a bank and said, we will take full responsibility and liability for them to credit that voucher. It costs them nothing. It really doesn't. And we give them a portion, obviously, for capital for them to credit. Normally, a bank will need about 12.5%. We offer 20 because they also add a fee which could be 0.5% to 8% fee for crediting. So, you know, it's around about the 20% mark. So it's given that little bit of a cushion to credit. That's when they have that as well. So they can take that money. They can do what they like with it. They can put it into trade, or they can do anything. So this is a non-negotiable document, which also has all of the court documentation pertaining to it as well, all the verifications and everything.
Oh, that's great. General, I want to know, what will Nigeria be owing you for giving us this money? What we will be owing?
Well, I'm a priest. I don't deal in terms of what somebody owes. It's nonsense. People sometimes think that people would do grand things and expect, no, that's capitalism. I'm not that. I've never been any type of criminal. I've always been straightforward with humanity. You know, this nonsense of giving people and expecting something back. We're not hustlers. All of the books in commerce was completely put together so that people would not incur debt. That's what commerce is. Finance, manipulation, and is lies. And what happened is the people that we helped forgot their responsibility to that eldership, and we're holding them liable for that trespass. They taught wrong immediately. So we are to give and not to expect in return, because you have it to give. You know, I mean, if the world needs to be helped, you know, they need to be helped. Why would you think that somebody need to pay anything back? Not you, but this is the misconception of most colonial or capitalism or capitalists. It's because they don't have money. They're not in commerce lawfully. They're in finance, so they're always expecting something before there is a blessing or fortune. You have to deal with the fact that people cannot, or they may have been misfortune. So you can't expect a povertized people to give back anything. It's just a hustle. You're just expecting for them to be downtrodden even more. So respects be to you. It's endless within the aspect of an Aboriginal as the trust, and it was already determined in the beginning to not use that instrument. So they went wrong. This is why the world tried to, I need to get something back. We're not worldly. We're straightforward. We're jurisprudence.
Okay, let me roll it to Honorable Lee's court. How does this gifting us benefit you now? Because if you're not capitalist and you're not taking anything back and you want to help us solve a lot of problems, how does this benefit you?
It doesn't. We're not looking for any benefit. We have infinite credits. What do we need anybody else to benefit us for? We're here to help. We're not here to take over. You've already been through that. We're not going to do it again. So the World Marshal Authority, you have marshals which are your own people. So I'm actually just heading this as because of my past experiences and what I've done through my life. I'm not expecting anything. There is funding going there for, like I said, there is part of the fund of the first voucher that we issue. We can offer many more. But obviously the World Marshals or the Marshals in Nigeria, they require funding. They can't. So that's what that goes to. It doesn't come to me. I don't benefit anything out of any of this. But you know, everybody's. We're not in debt. We're not debtors. This is the concept that people have to understand.
Okay.
Money was never needed. It's not a loan. This is non-recourse. So we can actually come in, let's say, at a later date when Nigeria is sorting herself out, and show you how to do this. It's not very difficult. You can bond up your own lands and you can do this as well yourself. So instead of going out and thinking all the gold that was in the ground over here is now in the ground under the bank, you can stay there, it doesn't really matter. Okay? I mean, you know, what's the point? What is the point of that? Yes, it creates a job for somebody, but you look how those jobs have been manipulated and how those people are suffering in those mines. For Colbait and the children, for example. All this trafficking and everything else that goes on, it needs to be stopped. So you need the World Marshal Authority to ensure that that fund does not get corrupted within the bank. So then, the marshals are there to make sure that that money goes to the people on the ground and the projects get done.
Okay,
That's all.
It's just like, Honorable, it's just like you took the next question out of my mouth with your reply, because I was going to ask you, like, is this money another means to line the pocket of the rich, or how are you ensuring that it gets to the poor, to the needy, the people who really need it, looking at corruption as one of the hiccups into getting to the poor?
You corrupt this money, be it a banker or a marshal, you go to jail. That's as strict as we are. You go to jail. A lot of bankers are going to jail. There's no two ways about this. Okay, so if you, let's say for example, your bank does not cash out this voucher, marshals will come and pick you up and arrest you at the UCC bankruptcy. It's a 10-year sentence. Because the bankers, the heads of the bank, the CEO, the CFO, the legal head, or the accountants, let's say, you know, a lot of them are the corrupt ones and they're just lining their pockets. If they do not discharge the voucher, which is for humanitarian projects, it's a crime against humanity. That carries a 25-year sentence. Now, for failing obligations, there's a 10-year sentence under UCC bankruptcy. You're already bankrupt. Okay? You're placing that debt that the bank has on the people.
On the people.
So for every criminal act under common law or every harmful act, there is remedy. So we're coming in now without the remedy, we're issuing resolve. We're trying to help the banks out. We're not trying to take them over, this, that, and the other, but under the UCC 3603 tender and payment to discharge under the endorser, the enforcer, you needed me to endorse this for you. Now, when the bank doesn't discharge, it has to whether it accepts it or not. But if it doesn't, then we issue the UCC 9, which is foreclosure. I will go and shut the bank down, and I will address their balance sheet to ensure that everybody gets all the money back that they've ever paid and have been hustled into paying, as the general would put it. So that's my task here, that's my job. I cannot allow any form of corruption because we were never in debt in the first place.
Okay.
It was just something or a concept that was laid on us, and now we're going out as that law enforcement to ensure that this ends, that poverty ends, that people do not need to live as they're living right now under these extreme conditions because somebody's pocket's been lined.
Okay.
I'm going to empty
I know
pocket.
that for a lot of Nigerians to listening and being on this platform, listening to what your esteemed self and the general have been saying, I know that we have a bit of challenges with having to borrow money or getting debt clearance from international bodies. But Nigerians would also want to know, I hope that this money, when it's being given to us, is not a means to take over our country.
No, it's your country. It always will be your country. And it's up to your people to resolve the issues that you have. They've gone on long enough. And, you know, for the last 20 years, well, my life in the military, I spent 3 years on special operations in Africa with the British Army and other special forces around the world, with and for them. The actual, the way Africa is going right now and has gone, is worse than it was back then.
Absolutely.
So what's the point? What's the point now in trying to make that situation worse? It's already bad enough. Everybody's had enough. Okay, sick and tired of this nonsense, which the general explained earlier on, is that's a nonsense. You don't have to live that way. So we're coming in with an understanding that, okay, the voucher is money. It's real cash through and through, guaranteed. So you take that in. We don't want any of it back. It stays in Nigeria. The only time it ever leaves Nigeria is when you're buying something from another nation. That's a commerce, UCC, commercial. So the commercial law needs to be put into perspective here around the world. Okay. Yes, we know there's bigger guns out there, there's this, that, and the other, but we want to work with these entities, the police, the military, and everybody else, and obviously help them and assist them in any way that they can to resolve the issues. Let's say you've got Boko Haram, you've got ISWAP, you've got all these other elements in Nigeria. There's a lot of distension there. And through the Niger, through the Delta, you've also got, you can head into Sudan, you can go into Mali, that's got a lot of problems right now, and everywhere else. It needs to be cleared, and on the clearance of that, something established there so they can't come back.
Okay.
All right, so we have a lot of plans in place to assist. We want to work with the Nigerian army. We want to give them the assistance that they require to work within the communities to help their people as well, or help your people, should I say. Okay.
On the note of helping our people, I also have a question, like your Nigerian representative, the person representing you in Nigeria, can you tell us about him? How trusted is he? How well do you know his profile? And of course, we would like you to open up on the Nigerian space, your office here in Nigeria, and who your representative is.
So we have Femi, Oli Femo, okay? I'm sure he's right there if you want to bring him in. He's been absolutely amazing in Nigeria.
Wow.
Now, he's actually traveled the length and breadth of Nigeria. I think the trip took about 3 weeks. He went into met with the community leaders. He brought hundreds of people on board. He's met with judges, he's met with ministers, he's met with bankers, he's met with the military, he's met with police. He's met so many people, I've lost count, throughout Nigeria. And we've had no negative reports whatsoever.
About him.
And about him, or from anybody that has come on board. They're already on board. So so we have the community coordinators. So you have to obviously understand we are not government, we're not political, we are sovereign, and so are you. And you know, under the constitution of your nation, because we obviously respect your constitution and how your supreme laws operate, they're land laws, they're common laws. So we're the same. So you're all sovereign. So that's what actually puts you all as sovereigns in that nation anyway. So the illegal trespass over Nigeria or Mali or Cameroon or anywhere else that's happened, which has been colonized, okay? It was, and I'm sure the general will go into the Romanus Pontifex on that, on those facts. But the point of the matter here is, yeah, Femi's been absolutely brilliant. He's been outstanding for us. And yes, he's going to set up the World Martial Authority office in Lagos. And he's also going to set up a few other things and establishments. And there'll be smaller branches throughout the communities in Nigeria that people can come in, be deputized, and obviously help and assist local people. The only time you should ever help, the only time you should ever look down at anybody is when you're helping them up. That's it. There's no other way.
Okay.
So yeah, and he'll be distributing the funds and helping out with the agricultural sectors, especially with the famine regions, the refugees that you have there, everything else that works with it, and we will work with the government.
Okay.
Okay. We know everywhere is corrupt and everything is right, but we want to help fix those problems for your nation. And the government, they're struggling on their obligations to the people as well. So if they require the assistance, as long as they don't have a record of corruption, then we will help them. If they don't, we won't work with you. If they do, should I say, we won't work with you.
I like your statement, if they do not have a record of corruption, which is quite very, very important. But before I go to the general, Honorable Lee, I'd like to ask you, at this crucial period where Nigeria is facing a lot of corruptional problems and issues all over the country, do you think it is really visible for us to fight this? Do you think it's achievable?
Is that to the general?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was up to us directly. Yeah, of course. The issue of in terms of it's really self-determination within the minds of the people, or even if you're collective or individual. It was just a misdirective. I'm hoping that I'm answering your question as far as with the corruption. Most people that are timid or doesn't do anything sometimes can be even greater of a hindrance to oneself, because you're only getting an offer. You know, let's take with the COVID-19. Most people that backlash, they didn't think that it would have any effect, and it did, because you are the sovereign. No one that's corporate can force these issues. And in fact, if I could share with you the Articles of 31 that the indigenous people were to have enforced, pertaining to as a specific form of exercising their right to self-determination, have the right or liberties to be autonomous and self-governed. This is in the United Nations, connected to a Security Council, and it was never of something that they manifest. It was just complete infidelity. And as an Aboriginal, I would go there, not as a capitalist. I went there in uniform for my people as law enforcement. And of course, I would have more respect of effectuating that than someone who's a capitalist trying to undermine it. So the misconception is Aboriginal indigenous people do not have to live timid or do not have to be victims of fraud. And this was what happened, and it's not just the colonial fault, the colonists' fault. It was misrepresentation of bribes taken by elders or people that we were left, that we depended upon, our families. And of course, if you go back, it's not just it's not a white and black man issue. It's an undermining of title, no matter what the color was. And the capitalists saw it as a disadvantage for the First Nation people and an advantage for themselves. So in terms of, let me read one more part. These are laws that exist where it talks about indigenous or aboriginal people are at liberty to have access to adequate financial and technical assistance from the states and through international cooperation to pursue freely their implied, or if they want to be, political, economic, social, cultural, spiritual development, and for the enjoyment of their liberties, rights, and freedoms recognized in this declaration. And it is fully guaranteed. So this is not nothing new. This is something that, you know, it's just like your brand of tennis shoes. I stated, what product that you like, people will buy that. That's the political politicians or bureaucrats that goes out to sell you if you need policy, if you need politics. If you think that is pertaining to you, then you will go for that. But there are 7 operational systems within the charters that was overlooked. Of course, you got the common law, as I said, the parliament, you got the Bill of Rights, you have the Commonwealth or the Republic Trust, you have writs remediable, okay, and then you would get into what you may call the General Assembly. So they that did this debt scheme was only one branch that was operating. If you look in the charter, the common law could have had a reserve bank, the Bill of Rights could have had enforcement, the Constitution could have had something, the Commonwealth was a republic, that's enforcement, that's military, that's a separate operational system that every clerk will respect at the counter per your presentment to effectuate what you want. So the colonies only effectuated at the clerk counters that pertains to municipal securities for development of your landmass, only what they wanted under an intent to politicize. It's called the illegal penal code. So they did a penal colony that does not pertain to you. It was only to penalize themselves, not anyone else out of that capacity, which would be ultra vires. So it was an intrusion from day one. And as Honorable Lee stated, the Romanus Pontifex of the Pope Francis was the one who had told the facts and produced the legal instrument of the motu proprio. It was not for the colonies that were here to say, okay, he's right, and we're going to give in. He said that they wouldn't. You would take your matters to a private court via the 1930 Geneva Convention, which was started, the Aboriginal Consular Tribunal, Aboriginal Consular Court. We had transmitted to Pope Francis and the Queen of England in 2007. Then they made their way here to the continent, the first time that the Pope stepped on this continent. So we were already vocal, and they were very respectful to my transmissions because it was the first time. Everyone is not bad. It's just been criminals and promotions of that on the front end. You have good people, so you promote the good TV and the good news and to let people know the facts. So the drip at the original United Nations was undermined before it got started. They were to promote peace and tranquility and stop the colonialization illegally of Aboriginal and indigenous people's land. So we have taken up that to be the facts, and we're enforcing that pertaining to the decrees.
Oh, okay, that's absolutely great to know. Honorable Lee, I want to come back to you. You mentioned about your representative here in Nigeria. You spoke highly about him, and if I picked your word, you said your office is going to be in Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm sure that maybe Mr. Femi will be doing justice to the address. But now I have another question from somebody, and this person, Mr. Arantan Wilson, I'm sorry about that. It says, is this process continuous for years? Will it continue for years, or is it just going to be a temporary scheme?
No, this is infinite. And also, it's not a scheme. It's not an agenda. It's not a corrupt entity. As we've suggested, we don't take anything back from it. We don't need anything. So, yes, you have the voucher process. Yes, it's infinite credits. And yes, we can fund all projects. So now, because it goes for humanitarian projects, the vouchers also serve other purposes as well, not just for the projects. It also fishes out the banks as well as to who's performing on their obligations. Okay, so as we...
Okay, I think we're having a bit of hiccup from, okay.
Go along. There will be other proposals coming in, so we'll need to be in contact with the president the vice president, the head of the central bank, and the head of the Reserve Bank, there will be a proposal coming in for the entirety of Nigeria. So the vouchers right now are helping fixing a lot of problems that you have, and they will. Real money. It'll help out all of the communities. It will help out at the lower level. I also want to draft in the extreme poverty class, because I'm under the belief that, yes, humanitarian projects are there to assist, but building a road, building a bridge, or building something doesn't help those people on the ground, because they don't benefit from it. So we're going to bring in other things that will assist those that are living in Ashanti villages, who are refugees. We want to bring in free healthcare, free education, and everything else, which is very easily done. You have some great doctors in Nigeria. You have some fantastic medical services. And we want to help promote them even further and get them going along. You know, it's your nation. It's dependent on the people, we the people, which is a preamble of your constitution, meaning people are master. You the people is master. Government is servant. It's a public servant. And then de jure is the law, i.e. your constitution. It's sovereign law. It's the common law land laws. And then we'll just come in and assist you with what you. So we're giving you the tools that you require. We also have alternations, okay, which is similar in nature. I'm using the United Nations here as a focal point in the essence, where all of the sovereign leaders, the actual everybody that's sovereign is running this. There's no politicians involved. There's no politics involved with this. It's a sovereign land, sovereign territory, sovereign people. So we're building up a platform under the World Marshall Authority to effectuate all of these projects. So you can go on the platforms, you can look for certain products all over the world. Everybody can come in on it. It's being built at this moment in time, and soon it will be loaded up with a lot of stuff that has been blocked, stopped, delayed, shelved, things that will help humanity, things that will help nature, and all the good things that people have heard about. Because Big Pharma, Big Tech, or whoever else has stood in the way and stopped that coming through for their own pocket to line their pockets. And that's not going to happen anymore. Oh, so because they're dealing in debt money, therefore bankrupt. So it's the amount of bankers.
I'm listening.
Sorry, go on. Okay, so every banker that I tend to argue with day in, day out, it's the actual reality of the argument at the end of the day is, and I say, well, look, it doesn't matter what you have to say to me. You use the debtor system, therefore you're bankrupt. You're under UCC bankruptcy. That's it. Okay, so it doesn't matter how much money they've got. The money doesn't mean anything. It's an IOU. It's a promise to pay. We're not promising to pay. We have a voucher. We're vouching to pay. So there's a big difference here. You have a promissory note, it's a promise to pay. So the question is to the bank, you've been promising to pay since the 1930 Geneva Convention. So when are you going to pay, and what are you going to pay with, is the question. All right, so we're assisting banks. We're not going against them all. We're not going to make them all collapse and come tumbling down, because there's no other system right now that can take it over. So we're trying to fix the problem. We're not putting a Band-Aid on it. We're not putting a Band-Aid on anything. What we have is real and legitimate. No false mission. You know, we're right.
Okay, I want to say thank you for your information. It's been very helpful. It's been insightful, I must confess, and it's been very interesting. But if we're looking at our country, Nigeria, we know that you want to venture into agriculture as one of the major projects to enable people at least have food on their table, basically export, import, and all of that. In this rural area where we're also talking about, we have most times no connection, no facility to internet connection, no good roads, no accessible hospital, or no modern equipped hospitals. How are we going to go about this? Are these going to also be part of your projects?
Everything.
Inclusive
Everything
of
is.
water,
All we're saying
drinking water.
You've got these. Yeah, you've got these problems to fix. Well, let's go and fix them. Let's not sit back and cry and whinge about the banks and the money they're not giving. We're giving you the money to go and do it. You need to, and then it's down to your nation to come and get all together, bring everyone, get to work, get these problems fixed. You don't have to live like you are doing right now in these areas. It's no good. I mean, it's been going on for years and years and years. It's time for it to stop. So what we're actually in effect doing is, okay, you need products. You have Femi right there, and you have a few other, all your community coordinators and everything else. There's one in every community. Visit him. He will get in contact with Femi. Femi will get in contact with the Continental Marshal, and then he'll get in contact with us. I am the only person who can sign for these vouchers. There's no one else on the planet. The General's the owner of the vouchers and the land instruments and everything else. The only person that can do this because I endorse it, I enforce it. So, yeah, the banks should have no problem at all because they are at zero risk to crediting and getting these projects started. I've known projects that have been approved 10 years ago and still not done yet. So we're not going to go through this corrupt system. Let's go through the World Bank down to the UN or down to the IMF, who then go down through some law firms, through fiduciaries, to this, to that, to the other, to the bank on the ground, giving the guy the money for the project, and by the time he walks out there, he's just got a fistful of dollars. No, because it's been milk dry all the way through. That's why I'm going direct to the bank in the vicinity of the project. They have no problem, or should have no problem cashing that out.
Okay.
Okay? So it bypasses the whole system.
Okay, that's great. I would like to read out this question that says, how is WMA working with the existing government of a country, knowing that it is also a fight against corruption? There will be resistance. How will this be handled?
Well, there's always resistance. I mean, you know, the banks are resisting, governments will resist, this will resist. But when they see what we're bringing in and what we're offering, I don't think there'll be much resistance. We're working with them, not against them. Now, if they are corrupted, then obviously you can't walk away from a crime. You will be convicted in the end, no matter what. So, you know, for government, if you have a minister, let's say of a state, and he's been given money from let's say, President Buhari or any other, the vice president or whoever, to go and give that, and he's just pocketed it instead. Well, he should be dealing with that problem. It shouldn't even be down to us. He should be dealing with that problem of a corrupt official. It's not down to us. Now, if he wants us to handle that situation, we're more than happy to. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with handling any of these people because we're sick and tired of them. We all are. All right, I have complaint after complaint after complaint about various ministers, about various bankers, about various big tech, big pharma, big this, that, and the other.
Who are corrupt.
Okay, they're all corrupt. But they're corrupted by what? Lining their pockets with debt money. It's not worth anything. It has no value. None of it has any value. It's all conceptual. It's like I said, if you buy a Bitcoin or you buy a bar of gold, you're buying it with a debt note. You're not paying for it. You're just giving a cash for it. Cash isn't anything. It's an IOU. It says right in the bottom of the note, promissory note. It's a promise to pay. So you walk away with the gold. So you have a tangible asset in your hand right now. You can go and monetize that. But what do you monetize it for? More debt notes. Bring something real into the game here, something that will stand strong against the money. It will back the money, give that money that tangibility, that viability. So anything that is non-debted cannot become volatile. You'll have a strong currency in your nation that would never become volatile. You can fix it at a rate. You can fix it at a price. The more money you make, obviously, the greater the load. Instead of getting that value going up and down, US dollar against Naira and so on and so forth in these exchanges. But what are these exchanges? They're nothing. It's just numbers on the screen. So we're saying we're giving you something viable. Okay, you go and perform your duties on the project. If anybody run away with the money from the voucher,
you'll be jailed.
You go to jail. You go to jail. That's it.
I think that's
so
one of the most interesting parts for me.
No, we're not here to play games. We're here to help people. We're here to help humanity, and that's what we're about. No harm to life, no harm to planets. And I mean that plural, because What we want is Nigeria and all nations in Africa to have their own central bank, not be under the thumb of the World Bank or the central banking systems of BIS or under the United Nations. We don't want you to have that. We want you to have our own central bank, which will skyrocket Africa's economy through the roof. And then you can watch all the other continents play catch up. Okay? But we're here to help them as well. We're here to help the world. We're not doing this to harm anybody at all. We've got their projects as well. Everybody can be sorted out.
Okay.
So this is not just one area. So the concept, just as I close here, the concept we want to give all of these nations is we need you to be self-sustainable within the next 20 years. Okay? Just think of it that your country is going to take off and go into the universe. So you won't be able to run out with the hands out to the IMF, the World Bank, or anybody else. You're self-sustainable. You don't need the money.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what we're working on. And obviously the next phase is after the vouchers.
Okay, I think having heard all of this explanation from you as an authority of the board of World Marshall Authority, it's been quite refreshing to know that you have plans for us, and of course you want to take us out of a lot of problems that we have now. So there's this other question. He says, when establishing social or health centers in local communities in Lagos or any other state, do we have to give it out to a contractor? Do we have to contract it to companies? And also, are there going to be retention fees? Is the WMA charging retention fees for any of these facilities that are going to be given to Nigerians?
Your facilities. When we issue the funding for projects, that's your money. That's your money to the project manager or the corporations. Yes, you're going to need builders. You're going to need this, that, and the other. We want to use the local labor force. We don't want to go to America to bring Americans in, or Russians or Chinese or anybody else. You build it. You know how to build. There's plenty of houses. They've already been developed throughout Nigeria. I've seen cities there. Okay? I know you can build. So you go and build it. If you need the education on building, I'm sure Femi will assist with that to bring in a Nigerian company to build that facility for you. Now, when it comes down to, let's say, utilities or water, desalination or water cleansing and everything else, purify water purification, should I say, internet connection and this, that, and the other. Well, if Nigeria's got their own facility that will work for Nigeria, then use it and help other nations with it as well. There is no bias, but if you need our assistance, let's say the Gen 4 nuclear, which is like a fingernail, let's say, of plutonium mixed together, that will power up, towns, villages, and everything in the rural communities. So there is a lot we can bring in. And like I said, with the alternations, there'll be a platform there, and we'll deal with the governments to bring in, obviously, the high-level security stuff for the electricities or the water purification or everything that you require there. Oh, you'll get taps. You'll be sick of the sight of taps. Yeah. So internet, I don't agree with 5G. I really don't. I am not into it at all, but we have something better, which is invasive. I mean, the 5G is impeding on your jurisdiction, let's say, and we want to put something else in place which is much better, more beneficial to your health and to the nature around you, because it's all about life. We're not taking life, we are helping it. You know, what's going on right now, as you can see, is taking life as theft. Okay, you shouldn't do it. So yeah, there is a lot we can bring into Nigeria to help, and we'll instruct. We'll teach you how to do that, or these entities will show you how to do it. Off you go. That's it.
Okay, that's great. So this voucher you're giving to Nigerians is invariably our money to trade with and to help our society. So it's not like we're returning the money someday soon or with a level of interest, as you're not capitalist.
Never. It will never be returned.
They will never.
It's your money to do that. When the credits run out, that's it. It's gone. Okay? But you know as well as I do, if you went to the bank and you pulled out $10, you go to the butcher, you buy a meat. That $10 goes from the butcher to the farmer.
Absolutely.
$10 then goes from the farmer to the grain store to feed the animals. The grain store then will either take it back to the bank or anything else.
So it
What
comes
was that
back in a
$10?
circle.
Yeah, exactly. So it all ends back up in the bank anyway, or any other bank. It doesn't matter. We're not asking for anything back. We don't own these banks. But we're trying to help the banks out. We're trying to push the markets. We're trying to help and assist with money within your communities, your areas, and this, that, and the other. That's what it's all about. Because if we don't do this and you continue on, the world continues on the path it's on right now, in that debtor system, you can go and see Klaus Schwab and say, give me everything and be happy about it. Not going to happen.
Okay, that's
Okay?
good. That's good.
And then you have the GCR, the RVs, and all this other thing that everybody else is going about. I've been hearing this nonsense for the last 5 years. So the problem is, I do deal with those realms. And yes, something is coming. Something really big is coming for every single nation. It's going to be a great thing. But a World Martial Authority needs to be in position to obviously help and bring that in as well. It's about the communities. It's about helping. It's not about taking over anything at all. I'm not interested in taking over anything. I can only be in one room at a time. I can only be in one car at a time. That's it.
That's good.
Simple.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'd like to come to the general. General, with so much expanse of wealth that you have and knowledge, I mean, with so much knowledge that you have gained over the years, what do you think about Africa in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you see us liberated?
Oh yeah, I see that now. You know, it's always been in my heart. You know, Africa, everyone respects the motherland and respects the spiritual. I've always been humble about that and always wondered in America why things was that way. You know, so the liberation is immediate. We're going to stay to this path, and we're going to have help off the planet and on the planet. There's a God or spiritual force that wants this. That's the misconception. We have been undermined. So I would like to share with you one thing where you can listen. Title 31, United States Code 5118, parenthesis D and 2, comma, and public law. Besides that, 97-258, September the 13th, 1982. Contracts requiring lawful money in any certain form are illegal. So they couldn't hold you to a standard of that note or this particular situation. So it was to remedy a specific account to be discharged or paid by a specific demanding currency, because the person that's demanding that is a mere trustee under default themselves. So in terms of the regulating commissions over here, everyone knew that the Federal Reserve note was a media of exchange. It was never a medium of exchange. It appeared to be. And if you use that, then you would be held to the esteem of what the expectations are within a fictional world. The debt will be calculated as though that it was real money. So they have given the disclosure, the Federal Reserve Bank, and most people got addicted, and we have to make certain that those standards are not put out there like it's an all, you can't go anywhere. It's never been that way. The reserve system even had reservations in there for the First Nation people. All of this was done undermining by political beings, people that was in policy that wanted their specific interests, special interests. And we have far more law than we have ever had that is now being realized, that in the beginning it was just a scam. Remember, you don't pay a debt, you discharge it. See, the note, they say pay, but it doesn't discharge the debt. So when you pay, you take up the deficit and you put everybody in a disadvantage. And those that are pretending to hold this deficit want it to go to some form of default because they have another intent, because they didn't give you anything in the first place. So they're getting the benefit and you haven't given anything on a fiction. So it's very bad and it's undermining, and it was to remedy a specific evil. So that evil has been remedied by the people, for the people, by the Aboriginal indigenous people. It was not going to be done by a colonist or someone that's a capitalist. No disrespect. If I went to any country, if I come to Nigeria tomorrow and I'll come among your people and brothers and sisters. I could not undermine you, and I would have to ask you for permission. What is the traditions of respecting your people? Can I do business? And what is the expectancy? I would not think to undermine the original people being foreign to you. That is ludicrous. That's not sound. I couldn't survive anyway. Nowhere. That's illegal.
That's great. Honorably, I want to come to you. I have this question that I know that I would like you to answer this. This says, I'm sure that he wants to say, is your representative in Nigeria, your representatives in Nigeria, are they being paid salaries, or how are you going to handle them to be effective in their duties?
Okay, so there is obviously a lot of marshals in Nigeria right now, and yes, they will be paid. They're going to be receiving all of their employment contracts. You have to remember this has only been ongoing now for a month or so. So we're getting everybody in. They're going to get all of their IDs. They're all going to get paid. This is what like I said, when a voucher clears in the bank in Nigeria, the World Marshal Authority, that account there is solely for Nigeria. Okay, so to pay marshals anyway, that is the marshal's money. Obviously helps establish all of the things. And if I have to send funding into Nigeria, as I clearly stated earlier on, USD is problematic right now because of the debt ceiling in the US, and US banks are problematic, very problematic when it comes to Africa. They just do not want to deal with African banks. So we've had to go through our own channels as well. So yes, every marshal will be paid, obviously a good salary, a very good salary. And also, I'd like to also add in that we actually have the oldest marshal in Nigeria. That's and that's Ayinde Ogmundi. He's 83 years old. He's our oldest
83
marshal.
years old, the oldest marshal.
83 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, he's our marshal. He's great. And you know, it's a pleasure to have everybody involved. So yes, they will be paid. Everybody will be paid. And as I said, we're just getting the agreements, the employment agreements, and all of the identifications. There's all the uniforms to get. There's the vehicles to get. There's all the properties to purchase. There's a lot to put into Nigeria. Yes, the banks certainly do need to perform on their obligation, and it has been problematic to obviously educate the bankers on what we've issued them, and that's the reason we put it into the nation, because going any other way, putting money into a nation, is a complete and utter nightmare. So if we have to do it that way, we will. And you know, no matter how this works, we will obviously get all projects funded that require funding. Again, they are based on no harm to life, no harm to planet. So it's irrespective of what the industry is. Yes, we want to focus on the agriculture, which is obviously your food source. We also need to focus on your education. So there's no need to run to America. There's no need to run to England or anywhere else for your education, because you end up living there and you don't come back. So your own nation needs these people. They're your doctors, your next generation. They're going to be running the country in the future. I'm not running any country. I just run the World Marshal Authority. It's just a law enforcement. Okay? And you know, we operate with, we use the military. We use the law enforcement that already exists. And then if they want to fall back out of the corporate system, out of the debtor system, we can assist them with that and put them back to their original authorities, which is common law land laws, you know, and, you know, their jurisdiction. There's no such thing as you know, with state laws. There's no such thing as state diction, fed diction, or federal laws. It's jurisdiction. It's juris at law, jurisdiction.
Okay.
So that's where we're going with that.
Okay. So on this, I think I'm having another question, and this is saying that, how does your recruitment take place in Nigeria? Does this rely solely on Mr. Femi, or you are also part of the recruitment system in Nigeria, looking at people's credibility and their profile?
Okay, so yes, Femi is the main point, or the main man in Nigeria. You can also come on to worldmarshalauthority.life. There is a contact form on there to go on board. You send us your credentials or send us, and then we'll get Femi to get in contact, and then he will do the onboarding and the processing. So there is a formality to it. You can go on to worldmarshalauthority.life. You can find all of the links that we've discussed, the Ignita Veritas, the UN DRIP, the UN Citral, everything else on the first page. And then if you go to the contact page, there is obviously our sibling site. So not only is it World Marshal Authority, there's World Agricultural Authority, World Postal Authority, World Transit Authority, World Health Authority, alternations, and the list goes. The list will increase, and you also have a site for UCC, which are the judges. We need judges coming on board, and we need courts as well. You know, yes, it's all under UCC 1, common law, natural law. So that is the supreme law, and then we bring in all of the authorities or the enforcements to ensure that health is protected, agriculture is protected, even your letters in the post. Because if you receive, for example, a letter, well, you can use COVID or vaccines as an example.
Okay.
It requires your jurisdiction, because it's an invasion on your jurisdiction, be it COVID or thing, because it's the only proof that anybody's ever seen is manufactured in a lab. So therefore it's a product. COVID is a product. The vaccines are also products. They're not natural because there's no ingredients in the box. I know, I've seen, I've had a look. There's no ingredients, so we don't know what's in it. So again, it has been causing harm. And if you receive a letter through the post, for example, and now the general dates back pre-Federal Postal Service, but again, even with the Federal Postal Service or the World Postal Service, if you receive a letter that is harmful to you or could be deemed harmful to you or damaging to you, it can be classed as half murder. It can also be classed as let's just call it for what it is, a poison pen letter. Go and get the vaccine, go and get yourself injured, because it can and has been proved to injure people. It's not, but it's down to your informed consent to go with that narrative or not. It's not down to us to make that decision for you. That's your own free will. If you want your jurisdiction, if you're allowing it to happen, that's your own free will. We're not biased in that way.
Okay, that's great. I think for every other person that has joined this platform today, we've been able to learn one or two things about the World Marshal Authority and how Nigeria stands to benefit from this voucher, and helping us with the overwhelming debt that Nigeria has been facing, and the low life, the quality of people's living, which I think is very important to humanity, helping each other. And of course, we know what corruption is in this part of the country, and like you said, they are also trying to put an end to corrupt officials. I think that with the saying, charity begins at home, it's very clear to me, you already mentioned that any of your corrupt officers who are found guilty will be charged and they will go to jail. I think that's the most beautiful thing of this conversation I'm taking away, which will also help people, I think, be truthful to themselves and to one another, which will help the living a life. And before we round off, finally, I'd like you to also state clearly for people who have been asking our website and for the WMA official website.
Yeah, okay, so you have worldmarshalauthority.life, you have UCC-1.life. Everything we have is .life. It's all about life. And we're not a commercial entity. We're not .com, .org, .net, or any of the others, or association. We are a bonded authority. This is not falling under the corporate law. We are sovereign. Okay, so we don't incur the debt. We don't use the debtor system. But yeah, it's worldmarshalauthority.life. We have a Facebook page as well at World Marshals. And you can find us on Telegram as well, UCC1, World Martial Authority as well. So all the links are on every single site that we have, and all the contact and how to there's a lot of information on there. There's obviously documents and paperwork that people can read and obviously educate themselves on everything we're doing.
So I think that with this interview, of course, we're also going to be uploading on YouTube, and people can have a reference point to understand what the WMA is bringing on board for Nigerians. And by the time they begin to see the flagship of the office here in Nigeria, we should be rest assured that it's not some kind of colonialism or colonialization again.
Not at all.
Thank you, General. No. Thank you, Honorably. It's been very impactful, insightful, and interesting having both of you here to explain in details what the WMA functions are in particular. My name is Damlola Banire. It's an honor to meet you, and I'm sure that sometimes when you'll be visiting Nigeria, I'll have the privilege to see you in person.
Yes, you will. I'm looking forward. Well, thanks, Damlola. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, and God bless you. Have a great evening.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Andrew. Okay. Goodbye now. Bye.